Welcome or welcome back, new viewers and game bears. It is time for the 500 subscriber special, and today we will be doing the Generation 4 tier list. My opinion on every single Pokemon from the 4th generation, from Torswig all the way down to Arceus, the god of Pokemon. But before we begin, I want to lay down some ground rules and also say thank you for helping me reach 500 subs. When we hit 550 on YouTube, we will do the Generation 5 tier list next. But to recap, this is my personal opinion on every single one of these Pokemon, ranging from their battle prowess, design, like color scheme, cool things you can do with their movesets, maybe some other small things like the anime or a sub-game like Pokémon Tournament, for example, all that stuff. The closer that I have them amongst the S tier or the F tier is the stronger I have of my opinion of them in that tier. Now, as you can see, there are Mega Evolutions here. For now, we will ignore those because they will get their own separate list. And finally, we're going to ignore any Pokemon that get new evolutions in later games, which I don't think is the case in this generation, unlike the last 3 generations. But, with that being said, we're going to start this off, starting with Turtwig. Now, right off the bat, the Generation 4 starters are the second starters right after the Gen 3 starters, where in my opinion, all 3 of them are very, very good. None of them are particularly bad in my opinion, from beginning, middle, and final stage. Like, they're all pretty damn good. Starting off, you're going straight into the B tier, because Turtwig is adorable, and if you don't want to choose Chimchar or Piplup's, not a bad first choice. Garottle, actually pretty cool. I'm going to put it in B tier, and it's a decent mid-game on. It's actually got a pretty solid design. Now, Torterra. Okay, Torterra's awesome. I wish this typing was better. Grass Ground is not the best typing. Very strong offensively, but you got a lot of weaknesses. Fire, Bug, that dreaded quad weakness to Ice, Flying, you got a lot of things to worry about. But it's got a cool design, it gets a pretty cool moveset. Recently in Scarlet and Violet, it got Shell Smash. Quite awesome. Alright, just like I did with Cyndaquil in Gen 2 and Mudkip in Generation 3. Right in the S tier with these guys. Starting with Chimchar, it's adorable as hell. Always my first pick in a Sinnoh run. Whether that be in BSB, Diamond Pearl, or Platinum, don't matter. I always try to get it sometimes in Legends Arceus, though that's not what I did in my playthrough on YouTube. You should go watch that in case you haven't. But yeah, Chimchar is super awesome. It was cool in the anime as well. Monferno, definitely a good early game choice against Rourke. Learns Mach Punch very early. Which, for years, I thought Mach Punch was a move introduced in Gen 4, but now it's been a thing since Generation 2. And Fernape. Bar none, one of the greatest starter Pokemon ever to exist. This thing is so strong. It has a cool moveset. Its stat distribution is awesome. Awesome in the anime. It's got a cool Pokemon Cry. And yes, the best of the firefighting starters. And it won't be the last time when I bring up firefighting starters being cool. Ooh boy. And you're all going to hate me when the Generation 5 list comes in, but we'll get to that bridge when we get to that bridge. Let's just say this thing is super strong. You can run many coverage moves on it, like Thunder Punch, or Knock Off, or Psychic, Earthquake. It gets some setup moves like Nasty Plot, Stealth Rocks, and Calm Mind. Gets Iron Fist, which is an awesome ability. And it's just overall a really cool Pokemon. It's also a Pokemon that really got me into Flare Blitz and Close Combat as well, besides Staraptor or Close Combat, but we'll get to that momentarily. Enough of me gushing over one of the greatest starters ever made. Piplup? B tier. Piplup's fine. Definitely a decent second choice if I don't choose Chimchar in a Sinnoh run. But it's a pretty decent Penguin Pokemon, I'll give it that. Primplup, a lot of people don't seem to like Primplup, but I think it's a pretty decent middle stage evolution. Not better than Grottle, but it's definitely up there. And now Empoleon. A tier. Strong in battle, I love its typing. To this day, it's still the only Water Steel type Pokemon. It's got a pretty neat design. Strong in battle, also gets plenty of coverage moves. You can run it on multiple teams. There's a lot you can do with this little guy. Or this big old Emperor Penguin, excuse me. And now Starly. Actually, probably one of my favorites of the regional birds. Mostly just because of what it evolves into later on. Because of that, I'm going to give it a really high placement. A tier, it's a nice solid early game mon. Gets Intimidate when it evolves, and we all know how useful that is. That's quite nice. Staravia. A pretty decent progression. I'd definitely put in the A tier as well. For the reasons I mentioned before, Intimidate's a pretty good early game mon. It's good against Gardenia if you're having trouble against her for whatever reason. So yes, nice solid choice. Alright, Staraptor. Instant S tier with you as well. Not my favorite of the original birds, we'll get to that in a later list. But this thing is super powerful, and at one point was my favorite regional bird. Until, some later ones came along. Super strong, hits like a frickin' freight train. It gets both Intimidate and Reckless, which are both very useful abilities. Brave Bird, Close Combat, Double Edge, and maybe U-Turn or Roost. Those are the only moves you need on this thing to do some real damage. Just Staraptor, cool design. It's super, super cool. Anyways, the meme god of Pokemon. Bidoof, It gets moody, I guess, or was it simple? I don't remember. I know, B-Barrel gets moody, but still. It's just far from my favorite regional rodent. It's kinda, I mean, it's supposed to look derpy, I get it. But it's just, doesn't really have much going for it other than its meme. B-Barrel looks derpy as hell, but it has a unique typing of water normal, which a lot of people, I think, forget that. Most people forget that's part water type. But it gets moody. Because of that, it ends up being okay in battle, I guess, but other than that, just another lackluster regional rodent. Kricketot, nah. Dumb early game bug. It's not the best design. It's super weak. I got nothing much going for it. End of story. Kricketune, another Pokemon that needs an evolution really badly. It's got a cool cry, I guess. That's it. I got nothing else to say. Alright, and some more goodies. We got Shinx. Adorable little, what is it, a cat of some sort? Yeah, it's a cat. Why am I even asking that question? It's adorable, nice early game mon. You could do some charge like Thunder Shock or Thunder Fang strategies with it early game. It's also another mon that gets intimidated early game, but how can you be intimidated by this wonderful face, Anyways. Luxio, one of my favorite middle stage evolutions. Definitely really cool. It's actually, again, a solid early game mon. Though it does start to kind of fall off at that point in the game. Say you get this around the third gym? Depending which game you're playing, Maylene or Fantina and that. That's kind of where it starts falling off from my experience. And I tend to, sad to say, it makes me a little sad to say, but yeah, I tend to throw them away afterwards, Luxios. But it's still really cool. Luxray. You know what? I'm going to put it in high A tier. I'd put it in S tier if it was better in battle. I do apologize, but in most of my center runs, I tend to stop using Luxray halfway through. It's got a good attack stat of 120, which is nice. But Electric isn't the best, like, physically offensive typing. Especially it's good, but physically, especially before Super Slow Slam was a thing, just the best thing it had before Wild Charge in Gen 5 was Thunder Fang. And again, base 65 power just isn't the best. And I wish it was faster. Base 70 speed for a line. Do you know how fast lines can go? I think it's at least 45 miles an hour. Don't quote me on that. I'd say do your own research, because I don't know off the top of my head. I'm just guessing. But it's much faster than base 70 speed, I'll give you that much. So yeah, Luxray, you'd be much higher if it was just a bit better in battle. Then I think they should change up some of its abilities too. Guts and Intimidate should stay, but Revelry, that ability sucks. Just switch it out for like Strong Jaw or something. Definitely would massively help out this Pokemon. Badoo! A middle stage evolution that didn't need to exist. It's lackluster, it's adorable, I guess, design-wise, but I don't know. Try to use this thing early game against like Zubats everywhere and stuff, you're gonna have a hard time trying to train this thing up from my experience. Though later on it does end up becoming worth it, because Roserade's actually quite decent. I'm gonna put it in low A tier. I've used this thing, it's actually really strong in battle. Good special attack stat, it's actually surprisingly fast, base 90 speed. It gets some decent coverage moves like Extra Sensory and Shadow Ball, you could definitely use that to your advantage. It's got some neat abilities, Natural Cure, Technician, and what was the other one? Poison Point if you want to use that one. So there's a lot you could do with Roserade, and it's got a cool Masquerade design. Curanos. It's got a decent design, a really high attack stat, so because I'm putting it in high B tier. But it doesn't really have much going for it other than that really high attack stat. Now Rampardos, if y'all know, my favorite rock type, or second favorite rock type. We'll get to the favorite one again in a later list. Rampardos, that huge attack stat, it's got a really cool design, and if you're not careful, this thing will tear holes in your team quite literally. The only thing is, that's really all it's got going for it. Outside of that massive attack stat, it's slow, it's got a decent HP stat, but its defensive stats don't really help take hits despite its HP stat. So yeah, like, there's a whole theorem literally called the Rampardos theorem because of how hard it can hit, but it's got literally nothing else besides that. Rock is a decent offensive type, but we all know how sucky that type is defensively, so Rampardos gets its high spot in my personal opinion, but in battle it isn't the best. And it makes me sad too, I love this thing. Anyways, Shieldon. Might be our first C tier of the list. I mean, Suzanu's alright, a shield for a face, not everyone's biggest fan, but I'm okay with it. Bastiodon until Generation 9, you kinda sucked in battle because Steel Rock is a terrible typing. I'll go with that, it at least has a pretty neat design. It's a literal batter at one of those walls. If Rampardos is the battering ram, Bastiodon is the wall. Just which this typing is better, and it has some pretty lackluster attacking stats. Despite the amount of conversion moves it can get. Until it got Body Press in Generation 9, it was kinda sucky. And didn't get Foul Play till Generation 9, I don't think either. But because of that, how it is now, it's a little bit better, but if we were looking at this through the lens of Generation 4, it'd be like D tier battle-wise. Alright, next up, Burmy. We're just gonna do speed round here. I don't really know what else to say. These guys are super lackluster. Just the entire all Burmy forms and all the Wormadam forms. They suck. They got nothing much going for them. I mean, unique type combos, I guess. What, Bug Ground, Bug Grass, and Bug Steel? But there are, besides Bug Ground, because Nakata's the only other one. Bug Grass, that typing sucks, we all know that. But Bug Steel is the only other one that's actually really good in typing-wise. But why are you gonna... Why would you use this thing over Genesect, or Scizor, or Durant, or even Fortress? Give me one good reason why you'd use Trash Wormadam over that. Hell, Game Freak even knew this thing was trash. They literally put trash in its name. That's how bad it is. And Burmy, little does anybody know, the form Burmy will take when it evolves into Wormadam is based on where you evolve it. If you evolve Burmy in like a city area, it'll turn into its Trash Cloak form. When it evolves into Wormadam, permanently, might I remind you. The Sandy Cloak form, you evolve it in a desert, it'll turn into the Sandy Wormadam. And finally, the grass form, you evolve it in like forest areas or plains, it'll evolve into its grass form. So it could be in any of these forms and evolve in any one of these forms, again, depending on where it levels up and evolves. And one last thing I'd like to mention about Sandy Wormadam specifically. Am I the one who thinks it kind of looks like a slice of pizza? I don't know. Let's move on. Mothim. Sucks. I'll put in low E tier, but it's just another discount Butterfree, but even uglier. All I gotta say about it. Nobody uses it. Gumby. Fine design, I guess. Never really liked bees, but low E tier. Doesn't really have much going for it. Its gimmick is stupid. And if you're trying to get a Vespiquen, you're gonna have a pretty time with that. Because you need a female one, and guess what? It's only a 12.5% chance to get a female one in the wild. So good luck with that, especially for you shiny hunters. God forbid you are shiny hunting this thing. I once found a shiny Combi in Pokemon Black and White back in elementary school, and guess what? It was frickin' male. Worst shiny I've ever had. I wasn't even looking for it, found it on accident, but still. Anyways, Vespiquen, its typing sucks. It gets some decent moves, like its signature moves in Attack Order, Defend Order, and Heal Order, which definitely gives it something to go with, but not my favorite Bee Pokemon when Beedrill exists. I just prefer Beedrill, so high D tier with you. Pachirisu, a Pikachu clone of this generation? That's alright, I guess. Nothing really much going for it other than, oh wait, it gets Follow Me. I guess, but there are better Pokemon that get Follow Me, personally. Not all that good in battle. Not much you can really do with it. I mean, in Generation 9, you get Terrifying Volt Absorb. It's as much as I can think of that you could do with this thing, but other than that, not much going for it. Weasel. Much like Shinx, I'm going to put Weasel in A tier. It's quite adorable, a nice early game mon if you're looking for a decent water type, though in Generation 4 runs I tend to go for Gyarados. But it's a nice secondary if I decide not to use Gyarados for whatever reason. Floatzel, actually pretty cool in battle. I wish it was, I guess, a bit tankier. It's kind of frail. But I'm going to give it a high A tier because it's neat design, it's good in battle, gets plenty of coverage moves, Ice Fang, Knockoff I believe it gets, or Crunch. Superpower, it gets some cool things. And did I mention it was a good design? I'm just obsessing at this point, let's move on. Cherubi, underwhelming. It's a cherry Pokemon, I guess, so I'll give it that. D tier because at least it looks cute, but not very good in battle. There are better grass types early game, I'd say. I'd rather use Bidoof despite how much despite what I said earlier about it being hard to use early game in Sinnoh. Cherrim. A pretty lackluster gimmick of Flower Gift under Sun. I mean, I learned Sunny Day naturally, so that's pretty cool, I guess. Yeah, I'll put it high D tier. Because at least his battle gimmick seems right. But that's about it. It raises the user and its partner Pokemon, so it's clearly a double battle mon. It raises their attack and special defense by 2 stages. But since it's so lackluster stat-wise, aside from the special defense buff it got in Legends Arceus, why not raise defense and special attack by 50% as well? You know, make it actually pretty decent and worth using. Attack and special defense are kinda odd to use depending on what Pokemon you're using, so the boost isn't even all that good in my opinion. And Sunshine form, just put that in the D tier as well. It's definitely a bit happier than its little Overcast form, I believe it's called. But, nothing much else going with that. Shellos. A cutie, I love this thing. And again, actually, screw what I said earlier about Floatzel being my, secondary water type I'd use in Sinnoh runs. That actually belongs to Gastrodon. It's adorable, I like this thing. It's a little hard to evolve, I guess, but, meh, what can you do? But when you do evolve it, Gastrodon, S tier with you, I love this thing. Gastrodon is so good. Groundwater, as I stated in the Gen 3 list, a very strong typing. It gets that here. Storm Drain is an awesome ability. I don't ever run Gastrodon without it. Just like, if you're not running Gastrodon with Storm Drain, what are you doing with your life? A part of me kind of wants to start running a Sandforce set at some point, but that's really niche. Other than that, I prefer the East Side form, the green and blue one? I prefer that one. Personally, between the two forms, but other than that, this thing is super cool in battle. It gets plenty of coverage moves like Acid Armor, Sludge Bomb, Ice Beam, if you're looking to deal with those pesky grass types. Terra Fire, if we're playing Scarlet and Violet here. It gets so many cool things. But anyways, moving on. Ambipom, I like Ambipom more than most people, I'd say. Well, its design is, nothing special, but it's actually pretty good in battle, in my opinion. I'm gonna put it right over here. I love doing fake out U-turn strats with this. Combine that with Technician and like Aerial Ace or Double Hit and like Thunder Wave to cripple opponents, you can get a lot done with this. Though Dawn's Ambipom in the anime was lackluster, they didn't even stay around very long and she ended up giving it away to do some ping pong thing. Wonder how that Ambipom's doing, we never see it again. Anyways, the Drifloon. It's cute, I guess. And I like how you can get it outside of the windmill in, what is it, Veilstone City? And let's put it in mid-D tier. Not much to say about it. Okay. If y'all have been on my channel for a while, you know how much disdain I have for this Pokemon. So much so, I'm gonna add a new tier list. Right below. What am I doing clicking wrong? Let me change the color over here, because this deserves a very dirty gray. I think you're all gonna guess what I'm gonna put here. Congratulations, Drifblim. You suck so bad that you get your own tier list below the F tier. I'm about to go on a bit of a tangent. I hate this thing. I swear, every time I run into a fucking Drifblim, in competitive play, in battle facilities, and casual play, it doesn't matter. I have such a hard time dealing with this goddamn thing. Call it a skill issue? I don't care. This thing has screwed me over more times than I can count. More times I bet you can count on your fingers. I hate this thing with a burning passion. Let's go over this, shall we? Welcome to my TED Talk on how much Drifblim sucks. And today, let's start with this. I remember doing the Battle Mazen back in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire before I started high school. I was trying to get to, trying to beat super single battles. I believe the first attempt I was using a Mega Salamence, an Aegislash, I think, and Escadrille? No. An Escadrille and an Alakazam. The Aegislash I tried using later. And so I get through most of the Battle Mazen with that team. That's around, like, round 46. Super Battle. But then I run into a Psychic. I think I still have the battle saved on my 3DS. I gotta look at them, but I remember the guy had a Slowbro in one of the runs, but it was the last Pokemon he was using. But he started out with Drifblim not once, but twice. I ran into this motherfucker twice. The same fucking Drifblim. The same trainer with the same fucking Drifblim. Twice. And I know, I have 2 nickels and everything, but so this thing, I use my Alakazam with choice specs. And use Shadow Ball. It takes the Shadow Ball. Hits me back with a Shadow Ball, but it doesn't kill me. My Alakazam. Now, it goes Destiny Bond. The first time around, I didn't know it was going to go for Destiny Bond, so I ended up losing my Alakazam in the process. And mind you, this Drifblim also has Stat Berry, so if you try to outspeed it, nope, it's getting that Destiny Bond off basically for free. And I forgot what else happened in that battle, but in the second round, instead of my Escadrille, I was using an Aegislash. I run into this motherfucker again. But this time, alright, I managed to take it out a little bit easier. I still lost my Alakazam, but that's okay. I also lost my Aegislash earlier in the fight as well. I used my Mega Salamence. Guess who was the final Pokemon? A Slowbro. Okay, I'm using Double Edge, Aerial 8 boosted Double Edge, and this was, mind you, this is before Aerial 8 was nerfed. Hits the Slowbro doesn't die, it hits a 70% accurate Blizzard. All because this goddamn Drifblim with its stupid Destiny Bond Stat Berry. Now in Sun and Moon, when that game was new. Doing the Battle Tree. It was using Stockpile, got Baton Pass off, I think, to an Umbreon or some shit, and I literally couldn't touch the damn Umbreon afterward. I had to restart. In my Legends Arceus playthrough, if you've seen that on my channel, don't watch that video, it's kinda bad. It was my first playthrough after all, so there's that, but ended up getting screwed over by an enemy Drifblim, and my own Drifblim ends up dying pretty easily, let's just say that. In one of my Wi-Fi battle videos in Scarlet and Violet, single battle, I think it was episode 6, I run into a Drifblim with frickin' Unburden, and most of my team gets frickin' swept by it. And finally, its ability Aftermath, when I see it in the wild, got some of my Pokemon killed back in elementary school, so anytime I see a Drifblim, I seethe. I hate this thing. You don't know how badly I want to get a freaking pin and just pop it. If you can do that to a hot air balloon, well, now you can. I don't fucking care. This thing sucks. Bottom, it doesn't even deserve F tier. That's how bad it is. I guess its only redeeming factor is it's got an alright design, but I didn't get to save it from the misery it's cost me over the years. So fuck you, Driftblim. You all can't see it, but I'm giving it a middle finger. Let's move on before my head explodes. Baneri. I like its design. It's quite adorable. Definitely another early game on that. If you want to use it, go on ahead. You know what? Mid-B tier. You're adorable. Now, Lopunny, it's actually pretty decent in battle. Don't think the wrong way, people, because I know there's going to be someone out here, some DeviantArt person with a dirty mind. But it's actually pretty decent in battle. I'm okay with this design for the most part, other than how people keep memeing it into the frickin' ground. But I guess that's more the fanbase's fault, not the Pokemon community's fault. Or, the Pokemon company's fault. Alright. And, because it gets some pretty cool coverage moves. The elemental punches. You get some things like high jump kick. It doesn't hit too hard, but you also get some pretty decent utility moves like Charm, so you actually not have bad battle-wise. So I'll put you right next to Baneri. Miss Magius. I had a friend back in middle school once who used to use Miss Magius all the time, and man, he kicked my ass and many of my other friends' asses for a while. And back when I was first just getting into competitive Pokemon. So that's a nice little fond memory of my own, I'd say. If that friend happens to be watching, just let you know that I'm shouting you out. But anyways, low A tier, because I like its design. It's pretty cool in battle. I wish more people would use it. You got some nasty plot setups. You can do Dazzling Gleam, Dark Pulse, Thunderbolt, Mystical Fire. It's got some cool things going for it. Honchkrow, one of my favorite Pokemon this generation. Actually, not. I don't think I like it as much. Actually, yeah. Sorry, Rampardos. It's not the best in battle either, but Moxie's really strong. Or Super Luck if you want to pull those strategies. But Honchkrow's pretty much my favorite Dark type. This guy's so cool. For the reasons I just stated before. You can try doing Shaco Shift strategies. I tried that back in Generation 6, but it just doesn't work too well. Especially if you're using, like, Flame Orbs and stuff. It's a little niche to really use that, but this thing, he's super cool. I loved his animation in Battle Revolution where he tips his hat when he faints. That's awesome. I liked him in Poke Park 2. Just, Honchkrow's a cool guy. He the head honcho for crying out loud. He is cool. Glameow, a pretty decent cat Pokemon. I'm not the biggest fan of cats in real life, but Glameow's okay. A decent early game on as well. Actually, you know what? I'm going to lower it a bit. Mostly just because Team Galactic will always use this thing and just spam Fake Out, which can get a little annoying sometimes, but if you can manage to get around that, Glameow's okay. Bargley, F tier with you. You're okay in battle, I guess, but Fat Cat, that looks like it has a nasty attitude. Ugh. But, one thing about it, why is it a Fat Cat with base 112 speed? You want to know, and I think other Poketubers and stuff have memed this into the ground already. I know, it's faster than Pokemon that are literally faster than jet planes like Latios and Latias. And Thundurus and Tornadus, or maybe not Tornadus, but yeah, no, it is faster than Tornadus in Incarnate form. Just how is this thing so fast? It's faster than literal jet planes. Look at this thing. How? It's basically the Garfield of the Pokemon world. How is it so fast? I don't know. Just, then it's a little annoying to deal with in battle as well. The Alpha Wrench and Fake Out. Mars's Bargley, and that's coming from a guy who's used Monferno against her. And it could still be a slight issue. Because Scratch just hits way too hard for what it is. And finally, in the Battle Mazen, when, what's-her-face, Nita, the Psychic type, single Battle Master, uses it, if you don't have the right tools to deal with it, it can really screw you over. Even if you're using fully 3-stage evolved Pokemon, it could still give you some trouble. But other than that, Bargley, get down there. You're ugly as is. Anyways, Chimecho, or Chingling, excuse me, didn't need to exist. F tier, doesn't really have much going for it. His design is okay, I guess, based on one of those little bells. But that's all it's got going for it. It's just a waste of Pokedex space. Stunky. I mean, it's kind of funny, I guess. Poison Dark, though. Cool typing, but I don't know. I'm not the biggest fan of this thing. I put it high E tier. Skuntank, besides its really funny cry and the fact that it learns fire type moves like Flamethrower, which could be a reference to something, it's actually okay in battle. I'll give it low C tier for that. Bronzor, a little annoying to deal with, mainly because of its typing. And at least before Steel types were nerfed in Generation 6, where they no longer resist Dark and Ghost type moves, this thing only had 2 weaknesses to Ground and Fire. And because of its abilities, it was basically based around, alright, which weakness would you rather have? Be weak to Fire or be weak to Ground? And because of that, Bronzor was probably really hard to deal with back in Generation 4 and 5. So, its design, a little dumb, but at least its battles, it's got pretty good battle process. I'll give it low C tier for that. Bronzong, really goofy looking design. It's supposed to be weird, I get it, but it's based on a bell. It's actually pretty decent in battle. I'm gonna give it mid B tier. That is kind of annoying to deal with, but you can do a lot with this thing. If it learns, which I don't think it learns Rain Dance. If it did, though, you could pair it with Levitate, get rid of its fire weakness, or at least run it that way, so at least pre-Gen 6, it would practically have no weaknesses because of that. But sadly, after Gen 6, you can't really do that. Bonsai. It's cute, I guess. That's all it's got really going for a low E tier. The only good thing I can say about it is, though, it was pretty cool in Super Smash Bros. Brawl as a Pokeball character. You could literally throw that at people and instantly kill them. It's that broken. Mime Jr., just like Chimecho, in the F tier with you. Not much going for you. You evolve into Mr. Mime, everyone's favorite Generation 1 Pokemon. Besides that, again, waste of Pokedex space. Why are you even here? Happiny, another Pokemon that didn't need to exist. That ends up being a bit of a trend on this list. Or specifically in this generation. I mean, at least you're better than these two. You're cuter than them as well, so I'll give you mid-D tier for that. Actually, you're going to be above the Charm forms. It's a decent source of experience, but guess what else is a decent source of experience? That you can also get pretty early in the Sinnoh games. Chansey. Chatot. A gimmick. Nothing more. Doesn't have much special attack. Should get an evolution out of this gimmick. Is out of the water. Doesn't really have much going for it. Just D tier. You don't really have much going. Spiritomb, you're awesome. Very rare Pokemon as well. Other than how annoying it is for you to get you in Legends Arceus, you know what I did? I just transferred a Spiritomb from Sword and Shield to Legends Arceus. That's how I got him. Call me lazy, I don't freaking care, but other than how annoying it is to catch you in certain games, you're actually pretty strong. I like your typing. You don't do much damage, but you could definitely take a hit. You can do things like Toxic and Will-O-Wisp and Destiny Bond and Pain splits the Pain strats. There's a lot of things you could do with this, man, and it's really cool. Alright, now we're getting some pretty cool mons. Most of the fodder ones, most of them, I said, are out of the way. Starting with Gible. Alright, Gibble's gotta be in high A tier. I mean, you can get it pretty, well, not early in the game. You literally can't get this thing until you've beaten Byron, the 6th gym leader, because you need strength to do that in Wayward Cave. And it can be pretty hard to figure that out beforehand, especially if you're doing a Nuzlocke of some sort. I say that as someone who hasn't done a Generation 4 Nuzlocke yet at the time of this video, but I imagine it'd be pretty annoying to get this thing in a Nuzlocke. But other than that, one other gripe I kind of have with Gible, besides it's pretty decent battle in its design, it's kind of hard to evolve throughout the game, just because it's so weak offensively, and it doesn't really get too many good moves early game until it evolves into Gabite. Once it evolves into Gabite, you can get some more traction with it, but good luck trying to get to that in a timely manner. It's going to be pretty difficult. Gabite, high A tier with you as well. Pretty decent battle, nice middle stage evolution. I just wish you could get it at least a little earlier in the game. At least it evolves much earlier than most pseudo legendaries. It's wireless. But, yeah. Level 24, pretty decent level, and once it gets like Dragon Rage and Slash, you can do some decent things with it mid-game. By mid-game after the 6th gym leader, but yeah. Garchomp, S tier. What else can I say? S tier. I always use Garchomp in my Sinnoh runs. This thing is so powerful. And I love using it in competitive. If you've seen my previous competitive videos in Scarlet and Violet, I use Garchomp quite often. I really like this thing. Swords Dance strats, Choice Scarf strats are my favorite to use with Earthquake, Outrage, Iron Head for those pesky Fairy and Ice types. Rock Slide if you want to cause flinchy strats. Poison Jab, but I prefer Iron Head for multiple reasons. Poison Jab if you want to. Fire Fang for fire coverage. You could run it special with Flamethrower or Surf. Garchomp, you're an awesome guy. I don't think, along with Infernape and Staraptor, I don't think I can ever go a Sinnoh run without using them. But, like, these three right here are always pretty much my go-to for Sinnoh runs alongside Luxray. Roserade, and Gyarados. Even in Legends Arceus and Gastrodon as well. Even in Legends Arceus, if you saw my Legends Arceus playthrough. But anyways, Munchlax, probably the only baby Pokemon on this list that isn't entirely useless in my opinion. Mostly in Generation 7 because you can get free leftovers from these things. I mean, leftovers are easier to get than ever now. So, it's kind of obsolete at that point. But I'm going to put you mid-B tier because you're a little annoying to catch, I guess. But you're actually pretty useful in most games, and unlike, again, other baby Pokemon, with your high HP stat of 130, combine that with Eviolite, I've actually seen people use Munchlax in competitive, especially in Little Cup. It's quite devastating there. Riolu, the only other baby Pokemon that's actually pretty useful. Because it gets Prankster, if you want to do, like, Prankster coaching strats, for example, I've seen that. I've seen that go pretty far, and it's got a pretty decent design, so I'm going to put you midway. My only gripe with Riolu is, It's a little annoying to evolve because you need it to get to at least level 30, evolve it in the sun, and it has to be max friendship or something before it can evolve, and that gets annoying sometimes. Lucario, very cool in battle. I'm going to put him... Yeah, let's put you in low S tier, because Lucario's awesome. You know what? No, let me lower him, actually. I'm going to put him in high A tier. Not quite close enough for S tier, because there's just so many good picks in this generation that I generally, for type diversity reasons, I generally try to keep it without Lucario, sadly, because I'm always using Infernape. And even if I use it in Empoleon, Steel type, it's a lot of type overlap. But this thing's very strong in battle. You can run as physical or a special attack or a mixed sets. You can do Swords Dance, Calm Mind, Nasty Plot stuff, or Sphere, or Close Combat, Flash Cannon, or Iron Head. Slash Meteor Mash, depending on which generation we're talking. It gets priority with Vacuum Wave and Extreme Speed. Weird that it doesn't get Mach Punch, though. You get some pretty cool coverage moves like Psychic, Water Pulse. I always run Water Pulse Lucarios. It's really cool. You should try it if you haven't. Dark Pulse, Shadow Ball. There's a lot of things you could do with this guy. And Earthquake as well. So Lucario, you're in a very high placement. Plus, you're pretty cool in Smash Bros. And in Pokémon Tournament. Goofy little Hippopotas. You know, just because of how goofy it looks, I'm going to put it in end of C tier. Doesn't really have much going for it. It can cause sandstorms, I guess. That's about it. Tyranitar exists, so I'd rather use Tyranitar. Hippowdon, pretty decent in battle. Looks like a pretty fearsome hippo. I like that. So because of that, I'm putting him in high B tier. It's pretty strong in battle, can take a decent hit. Pure Ground is a decent typing, I'd say. Again, it can cause sandstorms, so it's a good sand setter, though I'd prefer using Tyranitar. You're cool, Hippowdon. You are cool. And now Skorupi. I remember I used to have a Pokemon card of Skorupi back in elementary school. That was or was that grade school? No, that was grade school. I was partially obsessed with, but definitely long outgrew that. Personally, I think I'd like Skorupi more if it was more of an early game bug-type Pokemon, but like mid-C, high C tier for you, actually. You're pretty decent, I guess, and a decent Scorpion Pokemon. Drapion? Okay, Drapion's too cool. I love this guy. So, high S tier, like mid-S tier. There's a lot of things you can do with it. Again, Dark Poison is a very strong type combo. It has very few weaknesses. You can hit quite a bit of things for super effective. You resist a lot of things. It's got a good defense stat. A decent attack and speed stat as well. You can do Toxic Spike strats. You can do Sniper with Scope Lens and like Focus Energy, Cross Poison, and Night Slashes, which you get stabbed from both. Pin Missile if you want to hit those. If you want to hit maybe some grass. Actually, Poison hits grass. What am I saying? It's just coverage, let's just say. I think it gets Aqua Tail in later generations. I tried doing Whirlwind and Toxic Spikes with it back in Generation 6, which, I don't know, because Whirlwind has negative priority, it's not the best thing, but it's there nonetheless. It's real tanky and a decent utility mon if you're trying to spread poison and whatnot or deal huge crit damage, so use Drapion. I recommend it highly. And it's got a pretty neat design. Krogunk. It's found alright throughout the game. I like this design. It can be pretty decent in battle. And Dry Skin's a pretty cool ability. Toxicroak. Now, if you know me, Toxicroak is one of my favorite poison-type Pokemon, alongside Naganadel and Crobat. So, I'm going to put you right above Drapion, because you are my favorite poison type. I really like your design. You're not the best in battle, and there are other poison fighting types that definitely outclass you, in my opinion. But I really like Toxicroak anyways. Neat design. It gets a lot of cool moves like Sucker Punch. You could do a lot with this guy. Carnivine, lackluster. I'm not putting it in F tier, but it's essentially just a poor man's Victory Bell, but way less interesting. That's all. So, high E tier with you. You don't have much going for you. Another older Pokemon, in my opinion, that should get some sort of evolution. Finneon, you're freaking forgettable. I don't think I dislike you enough to put you in F tier, but you're freaking forgettable. Same with you, Luminion. It's basically the Sea King of Generation 4. Who's gonna use this thing over Gastrodon or Floatzel or Gyarados or Empoleon, assuming you chose Piplup? Or any other non-Generation 4 water type that's available in a Sinnoh game. Like, who's gonna use this thing, really? I don't know. It's basically the Sea King of Generation 4. I remember one of the Battle Shadowlands in the Gen 6 games, and the Battle Mazen used it, but it doesn't really have a good special attack stat either, so it's just really forgettable. It's not the best in battle, just low E tier for you. Mantike, another baby Pokemon that really shouldn't exist. I don't dislike it enough to put in E tier, F tier I meant to say, so E tier, that's where we shall put it. Because you purely exist to evolve into Mantine. I mean, your special defense stat is okay, but that's all you got going for you. Just Mantine didn't need... Mantike, I mean, didn't need to exist. Snover. Snover's got an interesting gimmick of being able to start the snow, or hail, pre-Generation 9. But outside of that, its typing is absolute garbage. And it pains me to say, because I love ice types, but Ice Grass is just so bad of a type. At least Snover's got a decent design going for it, but D tier just because of how effing awful it is in battle. I'm so sorry, but I have to put it there. Same with a Bomb Snow is a little better in Generation 9 thanks to the snow buffs. And it's got a pretty neat Yeti design, but I can't put it higher than B tier. This thing just sucks in battle. And really hurts my perspective of this Pokemon, so... Yeah, let's put it, like, low-end B tier. I think it's fair, right? Weavile, actually pretty cool. Neat in battle as well. Dark Ice is a good type to combo offensively. I think it's a lot of cool moves like Triple Axle and Knockoff. And did I mention it has a pretty cool design? So because of that, I want to put you in mid-A tier. You're definitely a nice little fast Pokemon I can use, though there are better options in my opinion in Generation 4. Now Magnezone's super awesome as well. I want to put you definitely high A tier. Not enough to be an S tier because I don't like him that much, but definitely a really strong Pokemon to use. Electric Steel, very cool typing. It hits harder with a special attack stat of 130. It's got a good defense stat. It's got a... Well, it's base 70 HP, I believe. You can train it in HP and give it like an Assault Vest or something. It makes it extremely tanky and hard to kill. And again, you can pelt in Thunderbolts and Flash Cannons and Tri Attacks. That's one thing about the Magnemite line, or specifically Magnezone, it doesn't get much coverage, at least pre-Generation 9 before it had like Body Press and stuff, to utilize its actually decent defense stat. And it had Signal Beam in earlier generations as well as Mirror Coat if you want to use those for extra coverage, but even off of its huge special attack stat, Signal Beam ain't going to do that much to things, I'd say. But other than that, Magnezone is a really cool Pokemon to use. It's also got some useful abilities like Magnet, Pulse, Sturdy, and Analytic. All three of them are very useful in their own ways, in my opinion, so I'd say use it to your heart's content. Lucky. Probably one of the few evolutions that's I'll give it this. Besides normal type Silvally, it's the only normal type that gets Explosion. So outside of abilities like Refrigerate, it's really the only Pokemon pre-Generation 7, like the only normal type pre-Gen 7 that can learn Explosion naturally, so... And even through TM, the only normal type that learns it. Because of that, it would get stabbed from it, and I always wanted to do like curse strats with it to raise its attack and just make an absolutely devastating explosion. Sadly, I was never able to do that. But someday I should do that. I can't do that in Generation 9, obviously, because, well, it doesn't exist in that game. But its design is a little dumb also, so I'm going to put it in low C tier, because at least it's pretty decent battle with all the coverage moves it gets and how tanky it is. Its design is just dumb. Maybe that's what they were going for, and if that's the case, good job, but it's just dumb. Rhyperior, just like Steelix in Gen 2, or Slugma in Gen 2, I think I like this more than the average Pokemon player. Like, a lot of people bag on Rhyperior, but I love this thing. It's cool design-wise, it looks armored, it looks like it's ready to take you down like a bulldozer. It's got a really cool attack and defense stat. In my opinion, a lot of people don't see it this way, but in my opinion, I think it's an upgrade to ride on. Fight me about it. Fight me about it. I like this guy. No matter what anyone says, I like Rhyperior. He is a cool Pokemon, and no one will ever change my mind on that. Tangrowth. Oh, it's a tanky grass type, another pretty decent Assault Vest user because of its high HP and defense stat. I believe base 100 HP and base 125 defense as well as a pretty decent base 110 special attack, which pairs pretty well with its stab move and Giga Drain. And Leech Seed to give it some longevity. Actually, you can't use Leech Seed with Assault Vest, but if you're not using the Assault Vest set, you can run Amnesia, which definitely helps patch that up. And again, if set up right, Tangrowth can be very, very tanky. Its design isn't the best in my opinion, but because of how good it is in battle, I'm going to put it in high B tier. Because there's a lot you can do with this guy. You can even run some coverage moves like, weirdly enough, Shockwave and Focus Blast, if you want. You can even run it with a physical set, because it actually has a pretty decent attack stat as well. Though I prefer special attack stats infinitely. Electivire is awesome, A tier. Above Luxray. Too bad it's a little annoying to get because of it being a trade evolution, so I docks a few points off from it, but it's very strong. Set up correctly, it can definitely do some very good things in battle. And it's got a pretty cool cry as well. And Magmortar. I love Magmortar. Magmortar, actually, I'll put it below Gastrodon. I'll put Magmortar in S tier. I've done a lot of things with Magmortar. This thing is very strong. Mostly, my go-to strat with it is like Choice Scarf strats. It does get a bit slower than Magmar. But, again, more reasons to use Choice Scarf on it, I'd say. And it gets plenty of coverage moves like Thunderbolt. I mean, I don't know how the hell it's calling Thunder from the sky, but I'm not complaining. Focus Blast, Psychic. There's a lot of things you can do with this. You run on a Sun team with Solar Beam. I think it gets Solar Beam. I could be wrong about that. But my only complaint is maybe I wish I had some better abilities. Flame Body's okay, but Vital Spirit preventing sleep isn't useful in most circumstances. I said most. There are some where it's actually pretty useful, like against a Moongus, for example. But other than that, I wish some of its abilities were a bit better. Like if it got Flash Fire, for example, that definitely would make it so much better. Togekiss, I like its design. It's very strong in battle. It can be a little annoying to deal with sometimes, though. I'll give it that. I'm going to put it in mid-A tier, simply because, especially even before Fairy types were introduced, it was always pretty cool. Getting Aura Sphere being one of the few Pokemon back in the day, besides Lucario, that could get that move. Also being one of the few Pokemon that could get Extreme Speed for a while up until, what, Generation 8? When many more Pokemon could get it? Maybe I'm stretching that a little bit, but yeah, I am stretching that a little bit. It's still a relatively rare move. But it's some decent priority if you need to revenge kill something, even though Togekiss only has base 50 attack, so it could be kind of hard to use that, but again, like I said, it's good for revenge killing. Other than that, you can run it bulky, you can run it with Serene Grace with like Ancient Power, or Air Slash flinches. I know the most common strat with it is to do Power Flinch strats with Air Slash and Thunder Wave, and most people tend to use that. Hell, I use that strat myself, it's very strong, you should try it if you haven't already. Really annoy your opponents with it, but other than that, Togekiss, you're quite cool. And definitely a much needed evolution for an older Pokemon. Yanmega. Okay, I really like Yanmega as well. Because I have a lot of nostalgia with it, so I'm putting it in S tier. It doesn't have the best typing. Bug Flying sucks ass. But Speed Boost, it's got a pretty cool design. You can run it with Tinted Lens, which is we've already established as a very strong ability in previous videos. And did I mention, it's just got a really cool design. I have a lot of nostalgia towards it. Back in the Generation 4 days and whatnot. Leafeon, far from my favorite evolution. It's not bad design-wise, but it kind of sucks in battle. I'm going to put it... let's put it in mid-C tier. It's just not all that good in battles. At least its design is pretty decent. It gets some okay coverage moves like X-Scissors or Knockoff. Glaceon. A lot of people like Glaceon. Design-wise, I can see why. But just like Leafeon, it just sucks in battle. And again, sad for me to say this about an Ice type, but it just sucks in battle. Good special attack stat, but I prefer either Sylveon or Espeon for that, which they both have really good special attack stats as well. It gets some coverage moves like Water Pulse and Shadow Ball. You can definitely do a few things with that. But as far as that goes, of all the evolutions, Glaceon's probably the last one I'd use. Most people say Flareon, but you all know my opinion on Flareon. Gliscor. Gliscor's another very cool Pokemon. So, A tier with you. Very strong in battle. It's got a good defensive stat of 125. You can do a lot with it, like Facade, Toxic Heal strats, or Poison Heal strats. You can do Knockoff. It gets Crab Hammer in Generation 9, but most of you didn't know that. You can run Terra Water on that if you'd like. And its typing of Ground Flying is very, very strong. It was also pretty cool in the anime with Ash's Gliscor. And definitely a much needed evolution to an older Pokemon. Very, very appreciated. Mamoswine, another one of my favorite Pokemon this generation. Mamoswine is probably my favorite Ice type as well. I freaking love this thing. I think I'll put it in S tier. Honestly, if it wasn't for me already using Garchomp in my Generation 4 runs, Mamoswine would be an easy second choice for a ground type, besides Gastrodon, of course. It's very strong in battle, hits very hard, it can be decently fast. Base 80 speed, you can do a lot with that. You could choice Scarf it if you want to catch people off guard. Again, revenge killing with Ice Shard, or for a priority, Earthquake hits like a freight train, you get coverage moves like Iron Head and Superpower. So much you can do with this thing. So much. I mean, before Icicle Crush was a move in Generation 5, its best physical Ice stab was Ice Fang. So in Gen 4 specifically, it was a little less useful, but it's still very strong. And Ice Ground, I think it's still the only Ice Ground type to this day, which is already a really, really powerful offensive typing, which, despite it being an Ice typing, it's not too bad defensively either. But other than that, Mamoswine, one of my favorite Pokemon this generation. Porygon Z, well, y'all know my opinion on Porygon Z if you've seen most of my videos. Pretty much my favorite normal type. Or alongside, Slacking and Zangoose, if y'all remember that from the last list. And you may be asking, if it's your favorite normal type, why is Staraptor above it? Because Staraptor is one of my favorite flying types, and again, I have a lot of nostalgia using Staraptor. Porygon Z is also very good in battle. All I have to say is, choice specs, Hyper Beam, Adaptability, Max Special Attack. If you are not a Rock Steel or Ghost type, you ain't living that. I don't care who you are, you're not living that. I know it's not the most practical thing to use because of Hyper Beam's secondary effect, but I don't care. I love using Hyper Beam on this thing. Just blow enemies to pieces. It's so powerful. Even in Generation 9 with Terra Normal, even less likely to survive an attack. You can run Nasty Plot in it for extra power if you'd like. It gets a hell of a lot of coverage moves: Signal Beam, Shadow Ball, Sidekick, Ice Beam, Thunderbolt / Discharge. And I like its origins too, of how, when it was a Porygon 2, the company behind it was trying to upgrade it, but something went wrong with the coding, and thus we have Porygon Z. So it makes me wonder what a Porygon 3 would look like and how it would work in battle. Maybe someday we'll get that answer. Who knows? I hope I predicted a Porygon evolution in the future. Game Freak, you listening? I'd like a Porygon 3, please. Anyways, Porygon Z, super awesome. My only complaint about it is it's a trait evolution, so you know how annoying that is. But you want to know what's worse than a trait evolution? A trait evolution that requires an item evolve. You want to know what's worse than that? A trait evolution where the Prevault Pokemon, Porygon 2 in this case, also need an evolutionary item and then trade it to evolve. So you have to do that not once but twice to get Porygon Z if you choose to. And that can get annoying pretty fast, especially if you're one of those people who doesn't have either somebody to play with or a secondary console with a secondary version of the game. So, yeah, that shit can get pretty annoying, depending on the game you're playing. But other than that, Porygon Z, you're so cool. Gallade. Very strong, I love his design. The male Gardevoir, that should have been the thing maybe back in Generation 3, personally. So, I'm going to put you high A tier, because you're very strong. I like your attack stat of 125, a decent special defense stat of 115. But other than that, base 80 speed's kind of lackluster, I guess. I know I said that before about Mamoswine, but again, there are ways to mitigate that. I don't think it learns agility, but Choice Scarf it, Tailwind it, whatever. There's ways to mitigate that pretty mediocre speed stat. Though base HP stat 65 is a little lackluster and doesn't go too well with that special defense stat, but there's ways you can make that work as well. There's some Swords Dance strats you could do. You could do high critting strats with, you can do high critting strats with Scope Lens and a lot of its moves. Like, I think it learns Cross Chop, I could be wrong about that. But Psycho Cut, Leaf Blade, Night Slash, Shadow Claw, Stone Edge, gets a lot of high crit moves to really take advantage of that. And speaking of which, let me backpedal a little bit. Fun fact, did you know about Gliscor that Gliscor learns the most high crit moves with 6? I just wanted to mention that real quick. But anyways, Probopass, alongside Looky, probably the worst of the new evolutions to old Pokemon. Don't get me wrong, Nosepass definitely needed some sort of upgrade. Giving it the Steel type probably wasn't the worst way to go, but it could have made it better. That and the giant nose and metallic mustache, I'll give it that. The mustache is made out of iron filings according to a Pokedex entry, which is a decent idea. But it's not the best in battle. It's supposed to be a very defensive tank that doesn't do much damage. It's essentially Bastiodon. But a Bastiodon that floats. I'm going to start calling it that now. But its typing really doesn't help it too well in being a tank. It can't really do much damage. I mean, it can spread status with moves like Thunder Wave and stuff. You can also run like Magnet Rise with it to get rid of its ground type weakness temporarily, but good luck doing that before you get hit with a very strong ground or fighting type move, just saying. Even if you get rid of that ground type weakness, you still gotta worry about the fighting type one, and your weakness to water as well. So Probopass, it's kinda screwy in battle. It gets a lot of cool moves like Dazzling Gleam and Zap Cannon. Zap Cannon lock on if you want to, but I wouldn't advise it. They're better Pokemon for stuff like that. That, and another thing about it, these weird looking nose things around it, apparently according to some Pokedex entries, those are nose pass for some reason. I don't fully understand it, but okay. But it's kinda eh. Dusknoir, y'all know, my favorite ghost type. You gotta be up in the, you're above Porygon Z. You gotta be, I'll put you even above Garchomp. Dusknoir, my favorite. Love its design, I love the voice it has in certain spin-offs like Pokepark 2. It's a really good evolution to our already really cool Pokemon in Dusclops. You can do a lot with it, run it with various coverage moves to do pretty decent damage with base 100 attack. I mean, sure, because of EV, Dusclops is tankier, but I still like how tanky Dusknoir can be. I just wish it had a higher HP stat. Base 45 really ain't cutting it. But it can still work as a decent defensive Pokemon. Do Will-O-Wisp or Shadow Punch strats, Shadow Sneak for some of that coverage. Or not coverage, for some revenge killing, because it's a very strong Shadow Sneak user, and that gives it some merit to use. So, run it defensively, run it offensively. There's a lot you can do with Dusknoir. It's got an awesome design. It's just super cool. What can I say? It's super cool. You can even do, Iron Ball Fling strats if you want, but now that Big Nugget pretty much acts the same way, just use Big Nugget, don't use Iron Ball. Frostlass. Frostlass is cool, pretty nice in battle. Pun intended, because it's an Ice type, right? Okay. But, I like I'm okay with its origins. It's got a neat design. It's pretty decent in battle. It's a fast Ice type with base 115 speed. Get some decent coverage moves like Thunderbolt. And another fun fact about it is the very first ice type to get a fire type move, even before Galarian Darmanitan existed. Getting Will-O-Wisp in Generation 7, so specifically on Sun Ultra Moon, so that gives it a plus, I guess. Froslash, you're pretty decent. Much better than Glalie, I'd say. Now, the different Rotom forms. Alright, I kind of like all of them, I'll be real. None of them I particularly dislike. So Rotom, easy A tier with you, because you're pretty cool in battle, you have a nice design. In some ways you're adorable, in other ways you're quite cool. I like that nice balance. And its little gimmick of taking control of different appliances is quite awesome. The first, and still I think only Ghost Electric type to this day as well. You could do some pretty decent coverage moves with it, like Will-O-Wisp, Hex, it gets Dark Pulse, Thunderbolt for stab. There's a few things you could definitely do with this thing. Confuse Ray, Substitute, Trick, all that. The Heat form, high A tier with you. Yeah, high A tier. I like its little oven mitts, that's nice. But it gets Overheat, and before Generation 5, it was still a Ghost Electric type before being considered Electric Fire type, which I'm glad they changed that in Generation 5. Because of that, I'd say if this were a Gen 5 list, it would be slightly higher, but we can ignore that just a little bit, right? But other than that, it's still really strong in battle. The Wash form, everybody considers the strongest of all the Rotom forms. Again, one thing about Rotom, I wish it had a better HP stat. Base 50, for a Pokemon that's supposed to be tanky, I don't think really gets that across too well. But it's another nice go-to water type, well, as of Gen 5, not in Generation 4, that you could definitely use. If it was water type, maybe you consider using it over a Luxray or Floatzel or Gastrodon. It depends on what you're looking for in your team. Personally, I still prefer Gastrodon or Gyarados over it, but yeah. That's my opinion there. The Fridge form, design-wise, might be my favorite of them. It's a fridge. What can you like? What can you not like about that? Because I'm going to put it in high A tier, even higher than the other two forms thus far, or the other three forms, excuse me. Like, it's a fridge. Like, it gets Blizzard as this moves. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention the Wash form gets Hydro Pump. They all have Levitate as well, so that gets rid of their ground weaknesses, making them even better defensively. And the first form getting Blizzard, you could definitely run on a Snow team, which I wish more people would use it. I guess mainly because it's an Ice type, and it was the first Ice Electric type, again, as of Gen 5. But other than that, we're going to ignore that little thing for a bit, since this is Gen 4, not Gen 5. But it's still pretty cool. Just it's a refrigerator. What's not to like about that? The Fan form, again, Generation 5, it becoming a flying type and getting Air Slash. Does make its ability to levitate very redundant, though. So it essentially doesn't even have an ability because it's already naturally immune to ground type moves, so that definitely docks some points off of it. A little bit, though, I did say we would ignore that, so, yeah, you know, let's just ignore that. It's a funny quirk if you didn't already know about that. But other than that, it's a floating fan, probably my second favorite of the appliances. So, yeah, I'll put it in A tier as well. And finally, the Mowing form gets Leaf Storm as its special move, and I like running like Choice Scarf set specifically on this one with the Trick, and I can do Leaf Storm, switch out, Leaf Storm, or switch back in, Leaf Storm, or Volt Switch for pivoting. Why I personally like doing this one. You could argue you could do the same with the Heat form, but I like the Grass one too. Ignoring that it's a Grass type and that it's not a Grass type, or yeah, ignoring that it is a Grass type Gen 5 onward, but not in Generation 4. So, I'm gonna be funny. Look at that. Every other row is a Rotom form. That probably won't last very long, but that's my opinion on all 6 Rotom forms. And now we get into the legendaries. Starting with the Lake Guardians. Alright, Uxie. I think I like Uxie more than most people do. Very tanky Psychic type. It's not as tanky as a Psychic type we'll talk about later on, but I'm definitely going to put it in high to mid A tier. I like the amount of defensive moves it gets, like Yawn, or Thunder Wave, or what am I call it, or Memento, or Stealth Rocks. It gets a lot of cool things to really disrupt your opponents, and it can take decent hits as well, with base 130 in most of its defenses. It's quite strong in that regard. You can run Charge Beam if you want to raise its special attack. As of Generation 8, specifically from Legends Arceus, it gets Mystical Power. Gets to just a free attack, special attack boost, so you don't have to invest too much in its special attack if you don't want to. Definitely can make Uxie a bit of a threat too, since it has the bulk to take the hits and really get those boosts off. So, there's a nice little strat for you. Mesprit, probably my least favorite of the Lake Guardians, so yeah, and it's not the best in battle. It's the token jack of all trades of the group, which most legendary trios have, like Registeel and the Titans, for example. Being more balanced between the three of them, amongst the three of them. So because of that, like, the saying Jack of all trades, master of none really is explained here, and I guess they do a good job conveying that, though that doesn't translate the best in battle. Having 105 in attack, defense, special attack, and special defense, and 80 in both HP and speed, it can do a few things, I guess. It can fit certain roles on your teams as well if you're looking for a pure psychic type, but when Cresselia and Azelf exist, why would you do that? But its design is at least okay, I'll give it that as well. Azelf, my favorite immediately, all the way up in S tier. My favorite of the Lake Guardians, I mean. So I put it above Magmortar. Very good in battle. It's a good offensive Pokemon. A nice offensive psychic type, though. There are other offensive psychic types that are better, in my opinion, in some ways, battle-wise, like Gallade. But personally, I like its design more. I like the amount of coverage moves it gets. Thunderbolt, Flamethrower, Dazzling Gleam, Incinerate if you want to burn berries. Nasty Plot to really bolster your damage output. It gets Explosion if you're pulling that. Normal General Explosion, anybody? It's very powerful. I always like using that alongside a Ghost type. And speaking of which, maybe I should make a team based around that. But anyways, slightly off topic. This thing also gets Levitate, just like the other two Lake Guardians, if you want to take a good ground type hit, so it gives it at least some sort of synergy. With mons like Garchomp, there's so many things you could certainly do with this. So because of that, high S tier, you're definitely my favorite of the Lake Guardians. Dialga, the great god of time! What's not to love about Dialga? He's awesome. S tier. Very strong, I love its typing, it hits like a freight train, its signature move is cool as hell, despite it just being a dragon-type Hyper Beam. What's more to say about it? He's so awesome. He can literally turn back time, speed up time if he wants, he can do anything time-wise. The god of space, Palkia! Even though I like Dialga more, I end up going Palkia mostly because of nostalgia, because Pokemon Pearl was my first Sinnoh Pokemon game. Not Gen 4 Pokemon game, that goes to Pokemon Heart Gold, but specifically Sinnoh Pokemon Pearl was my first Sinnoh game. And then I played Shining Pearl later on, just to follow in that parallel. I could have changed, yeah, but I didn't want to. But at least it's pretty strong in battle, so I'll give it A tier. It's not as good as Dialga in my opinion, because I'd argue Dialga has a slightly better type combo. And because of that, I think Dialga has a bit of an unfair advantage between the two of them. I mean, legendary duos, in the box art legendary duos, tend to be that way sometimes. Where one will have a bit of an open advantage over the other. But its move, Spatial Rend, high crit chance, and it's a really cool move that literally cuts reality, and I think that's badass. So, Palkia, you deserve A tier. Very, very high A tier. Heatran, actually really useful in battle. I've used Heatran quite a lot. I'm tempted to put in low S tier, but I'm not the biggest fan. Well, I'm not going to say I'm not the biggest fan of its design. It's a Magma Spider, but its design could be much desire, but I love its typing. I love it how it is in battle. Where you can give it Air Balloon to get rid of it, temporarily get rid of its ground weakness. There are a lot of ways to mitigate its water and fighting weakness. Fire Steel is just a really strong typing, both offensively and defensively, though neither type can touch fire or water types or even neutral. It gets Flash Fire, which gives it some team synergy. You can run it up with, like, Lava Plume or take a fire type hit for, say, a Pokemon like Glaceon, for example, that's normally weak to fire type moves. It gets some decent coverage moves like Solar Beam or Earth Power. There's a few things you can do with this guy. And Magma Storm is a really cool signature move. Essentially, it's just a stronger fire spin. But if you can manage to hit it, it'll do some good damage and really good chip damage as well. Actually, I think it was 1/6. Heck, in competitive play, before it lost Toxic, when it used to have Toxic, the strategy with it was substitute Magma Storm, Toxic, which I hear was a pretty gnarly strat that would really whittle away at certain walls and threats. So that's pretty strong, I'd say. Definitely earning that A spot there, Heatran. Regigigas, the master of the legendary titans. And that includes Regieleki and Regidrago later on. I like its design, but that speed boost, I almost said speed boost. That slow start ability really knocks it down. And it really takes a lot to really, get around that horseshit ability. Which, I'm definitely going to dock points off with it, so I'm going to put it in, Because of how sucky it is in battle and how much shit you have to do to get around it, I'm going to put it in low A tier. Because I do like Regigigas, but honestly, who at Game Freak thought it was a good idea to give this thing a slow start? Even in a game like Legends Arceus, where abilities don't exist, it still has the slow start effect. Somebody at Game Freak just really, really does not like Regigigas. It's the master of a legendary group. Why is it the weakest member of them? Just because of that ability alone. Without the ability, it's super cool if you can manage to get around it. With ability swapping, or if you do it the old-fashioned way and just wait out the 5 turns, but just somebody at Game Freak really doesn't like Regigigas. I don't know, like, someone has a vendetta against this thing. If I were designing it, I'd get rid of that slow start ability, give it pressure or something. But There's no reason for it to have a slow start. Other than that, it gets some really cool coverage moves, like Hammer Arm, or Zen Headbutt, and Knockoff, the Elemental Punches, Earthquake. It gets a lot of coverage moves to get the job done, so I'll at least give it that. But other than that, yeah, just that slow start really screws it up, man. And it's got a cool cry as well. Just because of how bad in battle it is, that definitely docks points with it for me, but I do like Regigigas. Giratina, strike him down! Had to say it. Giratina, not my favorite of the creation trio, but I'm going to put it, both of its forms even, in low S tier. It's super cool. It's the god of distortion or the god of antimatter, whichever one you want to say. It's literally Pokemon Satan, and that makes it so cool. But battle-wise, being the very first Dragon Ghost type long before Dragapult was a thing, like, it gets a lot of ultra-powerful moves. It had a version of Phantom Force before Phantom Force known as Shadow Force, which is just stronger. And I remember when I used to, like, write Pokemon, like, back in elementary school when I used to draw Pokemon, I remember drawing a Ghastly, and I gave it Shadow Force for some reason. I don't know, I was in elementary school at the time, cut me some slack. I didn't know that I couldn't learn that at the time. Of course, nowadays I know that, but it's just a little memory I wanted to share. But other than that, Giratina, very cool in battle, awesome design, nice lore to it. It's pretty awesome. Got banished because of the way it was acting. Arceus was like, nah, bad child, go to hell with you. Whatever. Cresselia, I like using this thing in battle. A part of me wants to put it low S tier just because of how good in battle it is. And it's very annoying to deal with, but I'll put it on the same wavelength as I almost said Magborder. As Heatran. I really like his design. It's awesome in battle. Super tanky psychic type. Better than Uxie. Sorry, Uxie. Gets a lot of really powerful Stally moves. Heal Pulse. Lunar Dance, if you want to use that. The screens. Icy Wind. As of Legends Arceus. Lunar Blessing, because Cresselia wasn't broken enough. Even after the nerf it got to Generation 9 to lower its defense and special defense, Cresselia is still super tanky. And now even with Terastallization, changes to a Steel type, Poison type, Electric type, or a Fairy type, much better defensive typings than Psychic. You got a true wall right there if you choose to use that. The one thing about Cresselia, though, it's nothing more than a bulky cleric. It's basically the white mage of the Pokemon world. Just there to heal and take some hits. It's kind of hard to get some damage with it. You can run Calm Mind strats because it's tanky enough you're going to get at least one Calm Mind off. Especially if you run it with like Leftovers or Citrus Berry. To really allow it to stick around a little bit to get off those Calm Minds. If you manage that, you have a pretty cool sweeper on your hands. I always like running like either max HP, max defense strats with it, with Calm Mind, and like Psychic or Icy Wind, or Ice Beam if you want to use that, or Dazzling Gleam if you choose to use that as well. Or my other strategy of running at max HP, max speed, because it's got a pretty decent speed stat at base 85, which means at level 50 it'll go up to 150, and get off those screens really quickly. Because of Reflect and Light Screen, that's why I personally don't run defense or special defense investment on those. And it's really fun to use. And good speed control with Icy Wind as well, outspeeding most things unexpectedly. So, Cresselia, you got a lot going for you. You're going to be an A tier. I really, really like you. Fion. Sorry, F tier with you. Why does this thing exist? It doesn't even evolve into Manaphy. Seriously, if Chingling and Mime Jr. are very useless, but Fion is also super useless. It's got the same base stat total as Glalie, and we all know how bad Glalie is. I mean, one thing that's got over Glalie at least has a decent typing, and Water over Ice pains me to say that, but I have to tell the truth. But this thing sucks. It's just a poor man's Manaphy. It doesn't even get most of the moves that make Manaphy good, like Take Heart as a Legend's Arceus, Heart Stamp, or Heart Swap, I mean, that's a completely different move. It doesn't get Tail Glow like Manaphy does. It's just a poor man's Manaphy all the way around. Like, why does this thing even exist? It does. If it evolved into Manaphy, maybe it'd be a different story, but it purely exists to take up Pokedex space. It's not even there for lore reasons. It's based on, like, some butterfly thing or whatever, I think. Or, like, I mean, I know they're based on sea butterflies, both Fiona and Manaphy. I think it was based on, like, bees or whatever, where how in bee colonies, there are 3 different types. The queen bee, the worker bee, I forgot the other one. The drone? Yeah, the drone. And I think Fiona's supposed to be based on the drone or something, which is why it doesn't evolve into Manaphy. Some weird crap like that, but yeah. Manaphy, or Fiona, excuse me, you suck. Don't know why you exist. If you evolved into Manaphy, you'd definitely be a few tiers up, at least C tier. I'll give it that. It's at least kind of cute, I guess. I'll give it that. Manaphy, definitely not my favorite of the Pixie Pokemon. But at least it's pretty solid in battle. It gets Tail Glow. You can use Scald with it, Surf, Take Heart, Weather Ball strats if you'd like. Terrafire on a Sun Team if you really, really want to. Or just Fire-type Weather Ball on a Sun Team. Again, if you really want to. Definitely pairs very well with Tail Glow. So, because of that, I'm going to put you... Oops, sorry about that. I'm going to put you in high A tier. Or mid A tier, that's not high. So, yeah, it's got a few things going for it, like I stated before, and it's even cuter than it's supposed to be pre-evolution down here. And I liked it in that one movie that it showed up in. Alright, we're almost done here. Darkrai, alright, Darkrai's pretty cool. I have a lot of memories with Darkrai, specifically from the 10th Pokemon movie. If anybody remembers Living in the Shadows, that song, that's such a cool fucking song. Again, not my favorite dark type, but Darkrai's so cool. It's not even that annoying to deal with in battle, but if built right, it can be a nuisance. I mean, I know it kinda got nerfed in Generation 7 with Dark Void because of a certain other Pokemon. But, like, and I feel bad for Darkrai about that. I'm not gonna go too in-depth in that, but it's basically, like, because of Smeargle kinda getting Dark Void nerfed, like, it's like the dynamic of, you know that one kid in, like, elementary school who does a bad thing and gets the rest of the class in trouble? That's kind of what happened with Darkrai and its signature move. There was no reason to nerf its signature move. Again, Darkrai's a mythical legendary Pokemon. It's supposed to be broken. Keep its signature move at base 80 accuracy, okay? It's so bad that people start using Hypnosis now. But other than that, it's super cool in battle. Hits very hard. It's very fast to get off those Hypnosises / Dark Voids. It's got an awesome design. It gets pretty good coverage moves like Sludge Bomb and Focus Blast and Thunderbolt. You can definitely do quite a lot with Darkrai. And I love the Living in the Shadows theme from the 10th Pokemon movie and its performance in said movie, so that definitely gives it some extra points as well. You earned it, Darkrai. Shaman, you sucked in your movie, but I do like your little hedgehog design. And you're way cuter than both Manaphy and Fion combined. So, because of that, I'm definitely going to put you mid A tier. It's adorable. I like its coverage moves. It's better than Manaphy. Gets Earth Power. It gets Dazzling Gleam. Gets some Psychic type moves like Psychic. You can do a few things with this thing in battle, though it being Grass type isn't the best, I'd say. I love its design still, though. I'll say that again. The Skyform, I want to put you in low S tier. Yeah, I'll put you in low S tier, because I do like it in battle. It's faster and hits harder than its base form, or its ground form, I believe it's called. Land form, I think. Either land or ground form, I don't remember. But gains the flying type, too bad that means a quad weakness to ice, and a few other common weaknesses like rock, and whatnot, so that kind of hinders it a little bit more than I'd say it helps. But it's faster, hits harder, so it definitely helps on the offensive side. It can't take hits as well because of it, but it's better design and it's better in battle, so I'll give it that. It's quite cool. And finally, everybody pray to Lord Arceus himself, the god of Pokemon, the reason why we even have the Pokemon world today. And for you, top S tier, I'm kidding. You definitely deserve a pretty high placement. I'm going to give you mid to low S tier. Because your design, it's okay. It could have been better and more godlike, but it's still godlike nonetheless. In its ability multi-type, being able, depending on which plate it holds, or in Generation 7, which Z Crystal it holds, it could change its typing. I think it's a super cool gimmick. And basically, a very godlike thing to do. I mean, hey, you're the god of Pokemon. You can be whatever frickin' type you want. It'd be cool if we ever got like an Arceus variant in the future where it could be any dual type it wanted. That would be broken on so many levels. So maybe it's kind of better that that doesn't happen. But if that ever did happen someday, you know, that shit would break the meta, or at least the Ubers meta. Because there'd be so many different typings. People would just keep mixing and matching. And that means a lot of endless colors, so... And that means more work for Game Freak, so again, more reasons why it's better that that doesn't happen. But super good in battle, base 120 across the board, you could literally... It's just like Mew in that, right? You can pretty much do whatever the flying frick you want with it. Whatever it needs on your Ubers team, use it for that reason. You want a bulky Dragon type, you want a bulky Steel type, you want a bulky Fire type, or you want any of those types that hit very hard, Arceus is your man in the Ubers metagame. And again, I like its lore a lot, being the god of Pokemon and whatnot, and the reason why we even have the Pokemon world. And everything starts and ends with Lord Arceus himself, so mid-S tier for you. You've earned it, and with that being said, this is my list, ignoring the Mega Evolutions, of course. So what is your opinion on this list of yours? Do you have your own list yourself? Let us know in the comments below if you have the time and patience to list out every Pokemon from S tier to F tier if you'd like. Anyways, if y'all enjoyed this sub special and you want to see more, please leave a like, comment, subscribe, and follow. Hit the one of the vids you see on screen now on YouTube and that bell button for more. Help me get to 550 subscribers so we can make the Generation 5 tier list. This video is also sponsored by the wonderful peeps at W. Just hit the link in the description below. Use the codes provided to get a wonderful discount on your wonderful energy drink order. I recommend the wonderful Dragonade flavor. One last thing. What did you like and dislike about this video? And what are your, and like I stated before, what are your opinions on some of my choices over here? Do you agree or disagree with most of them? Let us know. We can also use the feedback on liking or disliking parts of this video in future videos. Anyways, thank you everybody for watching. Have a terrific day.